Hey, everybody, welcome into episode 176 of the Leaning into Leadership podcast. Man, I am so excited to have this particular episode right now. Man, I'll tell you what, for the last few months, if you're a regular listener to the podcast, you know this, but man, for the last few months, I have been working on something that I think is really, really special. And I think it's something that can make such a big difference for school leaders, whether you're a brand new school leader or you've been in the game for a while. I just am so excited about my new course, Take Control of Your Leadership. Now, this course is all about empowering school leaders to overcome the overwhelm and to just get focused on what really matters. So in this episode, I want to share some insights with you from the course. There are 6 modules in the course, and so over the course of the next 15 or 20 minutes, I want to share with you some insights from each of those 6. I want to share some of the same strategies and lesson that help me transform myself as a leader to take control of my time and my energy and my focus, and some of that content that I poured right into this course. And so whether you're feeling burned out or you're just looking to refine your leadership approach, this is absolutely the right place. So let's jump right in. So in this course, module number 1 is all about gaining clarity. The title of the module is Gaining Clarity and Examining Systems. And, this goes back to my days as a high school principal. When I first became the high school principal, I walked into a situation where everything felt like it was a priority. I was constantly putting out fires. I was unsure of what really needed my attention. It wasn't until I worked with a coach that I realized that the problem wasn't just my time. It was my complete lack of clarity. I hadn't done the work necessary to define what it was that really mattered to me the most as a leader. And so in module 1, we start right away by identifying what are your top leadership values. And then let's take a look at the systems that you have in place in your school. So a key tip from that particular module is to identify your top leadership values and really think about what are the big rocks, if you will, in your leadership. What are the non-negotiables that align with your vision and your values? And once you know those, you can filter out the distractions and really focus your energy on where it counts. As a quick example, for me, it came down to really getting sharp on 6 very specific things. Number 1 for me was building and maintaining positive culture and climate. Number 2 was ensuring that every single adult in my building felt seen and heard and valued and trusted. I wanted them to know I've got their back. Number 3 was to ensure that we were empowering and embracing student voice. Number 4 was leading as the instructional leader of my school. Number 5 was leading with a coaching mindset. And number 6 was just simply being the champion of my organization. So for me, when I found that clarity, wow, that was a big game changer. Now, let's talk about the second module, which is all about time management. Now, let's be honest, leaders, this is an area that first and foremost, when you very first become an administrator, time management is really, really difficult, right? It's one of the hardest lessons that I learned. Being busy doesn't mean you're being effective. I spent way too many days running from one crisis to the next, only to realize at the end of the day, I had not accomplished anything meaningful. Any of those big rocks did not get taken care of because I let everybody else's urgent become my urgent. Module 2 is all about taking control of your time, taking back ownership of your time, stopping the time bandits in their tracks. One of my favorite strategies is one that I call the 15-minute reset. At the start of the day, spend about 15 minutes planning your top 3 priorities. And then check in midday just to adjust as needed because you're going to need to, right? That's a simple practice, but it really helped me to stay on track and reduce that constant feeling of overwhelm. Another one, and this is an element from the course, and I'll put this down in the show notes. I'll give you a link to this so you can go get this particular item for free. In the course, I share the School Leaders Weekly Planner, which is a tool for planning and managing your time, but not just simply managing your time, but also being intentional about when am I totally unavailable because I'm working on my highest leverage items, and when do I set aside time so that I can reflect? Because that's such a key element. And so often we forget to reflect. We just get through the day like, hey, yay, I survived. No, we got to make sure we have time for reflection. But in the School Leaders Weekly Planner, and again, that's a free item. I'll throw that down in the show notes for you so you can go get that planner. It gives you that opportunity to really structure day by day. Not only when am I going to be focusing on my top priorities, but also when am I going to set aside time so that I can reflect. And Module 3 is all about building and maintaining positive school culture and climate. I will tell you it's the longest module of any of them in this particular course. And in all seriousness, I probably at some point in time down the road will do a whole separate course just on culture and climate. But for me, this was huge, right? You know, as a school leader, you don't realize just how important culture is when you're not focused on it. And when you don't focus on it, that's when your culture doesn't go in the direction you want it to go. You know, in my second year as a building principal, I took my leadership team on a retreat, and we really dove into getting clear about our roles. We really focused on setting goals and getting this shared vision together. But one of the biggest pieces that we focused on was, where are we with our school culture and climate? You know, we reflected back to a time, honestly, when I was an assistant principal, and it became really apparent that we were focused on all the things people were doing wrong instead of focusing on what they were doing right. And in that moment, one of my two roads moments where two roads diverged for me, it became, I can continue to be the guy who's focused on the things they're doing wrong, or maybe, just maybe, I start to shift my focus to recognizing, rewarding, and reinforcing the things that people are doing right. So in Module 3, that's really where we go. I mean, I really share with you how to build culture where everyone feels seen and heard and valued and trusted. And one of the biggest tips there is recognizing and rewarding the values you want to see. When you recognize and reward the things you want to see, you are reinforcing them. You know, and to highlight those positive behaviors, the positive attributes, the positive attendance, the positive attitude, the leadership that you want to see in your school, man, when you do that, would you highlight those things and align that with really what your school's mission is, what you see as the compelling vision of your school, you're ultimately reinforcing the culture that you're trying to create. And man, this module is just so much fun, and it's just loaded with great ideas for how you go about building and maintaining that positive culture. In module number 4, this is where we're going to lean into probably the number one reason schools exist, teaching and learning, right? We are going to really focus on teaching and learning. And for a long time, I thought that being that instructional leader meant just getting into classrooms, you know, just showing your face, which is a big piece, right? And I've worked with school principals who really think that micromanaging lesson plans or always having the perfect answer to every question is what instructional leadership is. But honestly, that's wrong. I mean, effective instructional leadership is about being present in classrooms, but it's also about supporting teachers. It's about ensuring that every student has access to high quality learning experiences. There's so many pieces that go into being that instructional leader. And the interesting thing, this is some data that I found as a part of my doctoral research. The average principal at the elementary level only spends about 16% of their time focused on work that would be considered instructional leadership. Now, if you think that's bad, middle school principals are only around 12%, and high school principals only about 10%. Yes, that's right, high school principals. We can do better. We can do more as instructional leaders. We need to show up and be the instructional leader for our campus. And in this module, man, that is exactly where we're going. I'm going to share so many different tips and strategies and methods through which you can grow your educators and grow your students simply by leaning in to being that instructional leader. Now, I'll tell you, one of the strategies that I share is specifically around frequent focused classroom visits. And we're not talking formals. We're talking the walkthroughs that you do, or the learning walks, or whatever phrase you might put on those. You know, those short, intentional drop-ins with purpose. But I want to share with you specifically this. When you're doing those walkthroughs, you should be doing one of two things. Number one, you should be focused on something very specific. And maybe that's something very specific that you know through working with your teachers, what goals they specifically are trying to hit. What are the things they need specific targeted feedback around? And that's what you should be looking for. It might also be something that you collectively as a building have agreed we're going to focus on student engagement. We're going to focus on distraction-free environment. We're going to focus on high-level questioning, whatever it is. But that's what you should be looking for. Don't just go in and say, wonder what's going on today. We need to make sure that there's a purpose to it. And the second thing you can do and should do, especially with your really, 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 really good teachers, the ones who are really tough to give that feedback to, because you're like, man, how do I help them get better? Just be curious. Just simply be curious. If you go in with a curious mind, wondering, man, I'm curious about this. I wonder why they chose that strategy. I wonder if the students are where they really want them to be. And then ask those questions of the teacher. Instead of giving them feedback, ask them questions. Your best teachers will eat that up because that's what they want. They want somebody to engage in professional dialogue with them about their craft, and they're phenomenal at their craft. So just be curious. That's what being an instructional leader is really all about. And folks, again, this module is just loaded with things to help you lean into that instructional leadership. Oh, that takes us to module 5, which is really about your team. It's about building and leveraging your team. This is something I'm really passionate about. And again, if you're a regular listener to the show, you know this. I talk about those leadership teams all the time. I talk about what it is that keeps leadership teams from being effective, and what is it that really is happening when leadership teams are highly effective, when they work so well together. You know, you don't succeed in leadership by yourself. You know, that was another one of my lessons early on in my principalship. You know, I kind of learned that one the hard way. You've got to have a great team, and you got to trust your team. Right? And building a strong leadership team, you know, it's a necessity. It really is. So in module 5, we talk about collaboration. We talk about building a clear shared purpose for your team. You know, it's one thing for us as the individual school leader. If you're in the primary seat, if you're in the principal chair, if you're in the superintendent chair, you know your job is to create that clear, compelling vision. Also, if you're a regular listener, you know I'm a huge Broncos fan, and thank goodness my Broncos are better, right? They're finally a lot better. But Sean Payton says this all the time about his rookie quarterback, that collectively they need to paint the picture around him. That's what creating that compelling vision is for your school, is painting the picture for everybody of this is what it should look like at our school. Now, once you have that collective vision, which honestly goes back to module 1, that's when you collectively work as a team around how do we get to that clear, compelling vision, and what is each person's responsibility. And that's what I'm doing in that particular module is we're going to work on how you can build that specific thing, how you can get your team all on the same page. Because when everybody knows their role and they know how their work contributes to achieving that vision, not only does the team achieve, you know, a whole lot more and function a whole lot more effectively, man, it's a whole lot of fun. It really is when you've got a great team doing great things, and that's how you get there. Finally, module 6 is all about staying focused on the vision, right? In the course, really, I guess by kind of zooming out, if you will, getting up out of the weeds, if you will, because that's such an important piece, right? Leadership isn't about the day to day. I mean, yes, you've got day to day things that you need to manage. There's no question about that. But ultimately, it's about the legacy that you're building. It's about what experience you are creating for people who are in your school. And I lose sight sometimes as a leader. I know I did, because I would get stuck down in the weeds. I know you do too. As a leader, you lose sight because you get stuck down in the weeds. But something I remind leaders all the time is don't lose sight of your purpose. Don't lose sight of what your vision is. And honestly, you got to get out of the weeds sometimes to do that. So in Module 6, we're leveraging something actually from my book, Road to Awesome, The Journey of a Leader. We're leveraging the balcony level leadership. Sorry, I went a little blank there. We're leveraging balcony level leadership. I mean, the whole idea with balcony level leadership is to schedule regular reflection time, and not just the, hey, I'm going to reflect on my day. That's built into the school leader's weekly planner. No, I'm talking about weekly or monthly time where you go stand on the balcony. For me, I literally went and stood on the balcony in our gymnasium and looked down on the floor, and the 6 things I said earlier, in my mind's eye, boom, there they are, down on the floor. And I'm checking in with myself. How am I doing with building and maintaining positive culture and climate? How am I doing with ensuring that I'm leading with a coaching mindset and so forth, right? In this particular module, I'm going to share a bunch of strategies with you, but we're going to go deep into that balcony level leadership, and I'm going to challenge you to find your place where you can be reflecting. That's, to me, what it's all about. If you're going to stay focused on your vision, you got to set time aside and be intentional about it in order to do that. All right. Hey, thanks for spending some time with me today here in the middle of your week. If you're listening to this listening to me during the middle of the week, and I really hope that you appreciate and got something out of the 6 modules here that are in Take Control of Your Leadership. I hope these insights and these tips inspire you to take the next step in your leadership journey. And, the number one thing, you don't have to do it all. You just need to focus on what matters most. Now, if you're ready to go deeper, the course is live. It is live now. The course is $397. But through the end of this week, this is coming out on the 20th of November. So through the 24th of November, our subscribers have an exclusive rate. Now, if you're not a subscriber, that's okay. Here you are listening to the podcast. I'm going to give you the same code. And this code will save you $150 through the 24th. So you have to act quick. Okay. But you're going to go to theprincipalacademy.com. That's where the course resides. You'll click on the course, get that thing set up, get going, and then use the code TCYL24. That's TCYL24. That'll save you $150 right now. This is the cheapest price this course will ever be. And it's going fast, folks. People are all over this course. It's so much fun to watch. So again, TCYL24, that's the code. Get there. Go check it out, theprincipalacademy.com. Thank you again for joining me here on the Leaning into Leadership podcast. Make sure you get down there in the show notes, grab yourself that Principles weekly planner, and get signed up for Take Control of Your Leadership. This upcoming Sunday, folks, in episode 177, we've got another great episode, and we're going to be talking actually about managing those brand transgressions, those mistakes that happen. How do you handle them as a leader? I've got a great episode on that one. So, folks, until next time, thank you again for joining me here on the Leaning into Leadership podcast. Have a road to awesome rest of your week.